Good afternoon and welcome to our Thankful Tuesday. And just because I decided to stream today for 21 minutes does not mean that I do not have respect for what is going on in our world today. And Black Power matters, of course. For me, I grew up where I was never made to feel the color of my skin. So I was very lucky to grow up in Alberta. Perhaps maybe protected by my father, and then subsequently got married and protected by my husband. But so I'm blessed. And we all have friends from all different backgrounds. And I've never looked at anyone other than who they are. And my favorite thing to say is we all bleed the same color. Okay, so anyway, out of respect, I am streaming today. It's Thankful Tuesday, and I am thankful to be here. And like my friend Terrell said yesterday, I choose to take the higher ground, the higher road, and work towards helping people and praying for a better time and a better place. Okay, and yes, we must honor the losses, all the losses, and move forward. And today, we are talking about something that is quite devastating to a lot of Canadians who are faced with this issue. We are back to talking about their homes and their mortgages. I'm not sure the exact figure, but I can assure you, I think it's well over 700,000 people in Canada who have chosen to ask for help with the mortgage deferral program. Many of these people are probably faced with loss of jobs, finding new jobs, and forced to perhaps consider selling their home. So with me today is John Cliff from the Mortgage Center, and we are going to talk about solutions. I'm sure many people heard, which broke out in the news, of a client that was faced with a $30,000 penalty when she just recently sold her home in Toronto. Anyway, join me. Welcome, John. Hi, John. Hello, John Cliff. It's
Hey,
good to see you.
hi Sally, good to see you. How's Lynn Valley?
It's beautiful, lush and green. It's raining today. Let me just show you these gorgeous trees
You're in the canyon.
in the canyon. It's beautiful. And as you know, I'm licensed in British Columbia and Alberta. And of course, we haven't really been able to travel to BC. But I came out here. I was able to visit my daughter, who still lives here after many, many years, and her two beautiful kids, our grandkids, and then also able to assist a client. I have her property listed for sale in Burnaby.
Oh,
So as we move forward, COVID has certainly made a difference in her life. So, but it goes very fast. I've been gone for a few days, and I'm back on the ground in Edmonton tomorrow. But thanks to technology, we're here live every day. And I'm so blessed that you're here. And we're talking about a subject that is passionate and near and dear to your heart, and mortgages. And we know a very large percentage of Canadians have mortgages. And earlier I mentioned that I believe there are over 700,000 Canadians that applied for the deferral payment plan during COVID. Many of them, I suspect, John, will be faced with at least selling their existing home and looking at downsizing or making some other residential accommodation arrangements. But a lot of them, I think at the time we get often seduced by the interest rate on our mortgage, and we fail to ask. There are 5 things people should focus on. But today I'm going to bring up a couple of things, okay? We fail to remember, we've discussed this very, very timely subject here on our webinar before with you, okay? And asking clients to ask very important questions. But, these are some major mistakes or little mistakes people make, not considering all of the options available to them. That's one. And remember, we talked that interest rates aren't all what they seem to be, and don't focus just on that. And Yeah, there's a number 2, right? Not putting extra. Okay. In my book, with your mortgage, not putting extra payments towards the loan principal annually, but that's a different subject. But this one for me, 3. I have 5 things we always have. Not asking if there's a payout penalty and how it's calculated. So I'm going to let you chat now for the rest of our little webinar, and you can tell us and what to do. Come on. There are over 700,000 people that are probably pondering. So there's lots of people needing your help today, John.
Well, we're definitely happy to help. And, you know, on the one hand, it is a temporary solution to defer your mortgage payments. But it's also kind of a bit of a wake-up call that, you know, when you are shopping for a mortgage or signing mortgage documents, a lot of people aren't aware of what the penalties are or could be, and what the formulas are being used by the lender to calculate the penalty. And, you know, that's part of our education process when we're first talking with someone, and try to get an understanding of what their future plans are, because that could really dictate, you know, which lender we end up going with based on the penalty, not the rate per se. I don't know the exact average, but most Canadians do something or change something about their mortgage, you know, every 2 to 3.5 years. So there's a very good chance you're going to be looking at what your penalty is when it's too late, if that makes sense. And so there's a wide variance in how penalties are calculated. There's interest rate differential, 3 months interest, but, you know, how do they calculate the interest rate differential? All of the major banks have a calculator on their web pages that you can punch in the information of your existing mortgage, and it'll give you an idea of what the payout penalty could be or would be if you were to pay it out. And, you know, those tools are there available, but, you know, think of us as a tool as well to kind of compare and contrast that with, say, some of the monoline lenders that use a very different way of calculating interest rate differential. They typically use, you know, the contract rate rather than the artificially high posted rates that banks use to calculate their payout penalties. So there's a very wide variance, and you can really plan for the future up front before it's kind of too late and you find out the bad news.
Well, I have a client currently in this predicament. Okay, so I got a message from her this morning that the lender said her penalty was $2,300, and that if she just pays the property taxes, that they will continue to defer the payments. And my answer to her right away: get the payout penalty that they have quoted you in writing now, because this mortgage is not even into its second year, and it's over $300,000. Okay, and somehow $2,300 doesn't seem correct.
It sounds like that's an interest only. So they might be in a variable rate mortgage, which typically is 3 months of interest only. So on 300,000, if we use
that, the mortgage is higher than that, but like 320 or something.
Yeah, so 320, and if they're using prime as the rate to calculate the penalty, that's, you know, roughly $10K for a year. So 3 months worth of that would be around 2,500. So it sounds to me like they've got an interest only type of penalty, or they went with a monoline who use contract rate to calculate interest rate differential. And ironically, a lot of the times their interest rate differential is lower than the 3 months interest. And the banks or the lenders always pick the higher of the two numbers they can find.
Right.
The major banks, which use artificially high posted rates to calculate their penalties, oftentimes the interest rate differential is way higher than 3 months interest. And that's where you hear these horror stories where $30,000, $40,000 penalty come into play.
So not all mortgages are created equal. So I'm back to that question. Like they need to really ask, what is my payout penalty? That's number one. But the other thing is, how is it being calculated? Right?
That's the main thing, because it's tricky to get a firm payout penalty, because the final number actually depends on when you pay it out and what are the interest rates at that time. So nobody can predict that. But even with the interest only penalty, some lenders use prime as the rate. Some lenders use your actual discounted rate. So for example, we had a customer a couple of years ago that came to us, and they wanted to renew with us instead of their incumbent lender. And in our discussion, it became apparent that they planned to sell their home in about 2 years. And they were initially thinking maybe get a 2-year fixed rate. But when we ran the numbers and we looked at a variable rate mortgage, even though it was 5 years long, this particular lender used your discounted from prime rate to calculate the penalty. And at the time, we put him in at prime minus 95. So now he's going to sell, and his interest rate is 1.55.
Oh, wow.
And they use that to calculate the penalty. And so his 3-month interest penalty on it's more than $250,000 mortgage, was about $780.
Nice.
So that's an example of how we can pre-plan ahead of time, well in advance, knowing what your plans are. And in this case, it made more sense to put him in a 5-year variable than a 2-year fixed, because we ran the numbers and said, this is actually a better solution.
Makes sense. So it would seem, so why are things not more transparent with these? There's so many different mortgage documents, and let's face it, the average Canadian, maybe, every 2, 3, 5 years deal with this. And there's a lot of trust that goes along with, working with a mortgage broker, working with a mortgage specialist. So
yeah, and it's a different approach. So we're not employees of a bank. So right away, we don't have to put the lender's interest first. The employee of the bank is actually obligated to put the bank's interest first, and the bank's interest is in increasing shareholder value.
Right.
And that's their mandate. They have to do that. So if you're a bank employee and you're selling a mortgage, probably the last thing you're going to lead off with is this huge potential penalty. Like I've been in sales a while, and that's probably not the best first foray into the conversation. So what ends up happening is it sort of gets glossed over, and at the sales end of things, and the rationale is, well, the lawyer is supposed to explain all of that to the customer at signing anyway, so I'll leave it up to the lawyer to explain all of that stuff. And oftentimes when you go in to sign at a lawyer, you're excited, you're getting your home, there's a lot of emotion, you're so happy, sign here, sign there, press this, sign more, done, I got the keys, woo, right? And the last thing you do is read through the mortgage document.
True.
So that's why we believe if you come to a broker and they educate you before you go to the lawyer's office, then you're going to be able to make much more informed decisions, and you're going to increase your financial literacy. And, hopefully that's going to help you achieve financial freedom sooner. And, you'll learn along the way, and you'll learn about mortgage penalties and how they work and that kind of thing. So we kind of look at it the other way around. We start off with the education piece first, and then the sales aspect kicks in after that once the customers decided they want to work with us.
Well, that's always been my first and foremost priority, and I know sometimes I reiterate things that people already know, and I always say, okay, you might already know this, So if you do, I'm not intending to, make you feel poorly about it, but it's just my habit. And one of the biggest things, and I've sort of narrowed it down to English, okay? What type of mortgage product do you have? Is it a real mortgage? Is it a HELOC? What is it? And first and foremost, right? What are the options with that mortgage? And I always say, please don't forget to ask, and then ask to be shown where it is on the commitment. There's a commitment letter that you get people to sign.
Yeah.
Is it 3 months interest? Is it mortgage? Is it interest differential?
Yeah.
And if it's interest differential, the average person has no clue what that means. So ask, how will that be calculated? For example, if I were to be transferred from my job in the second or third year of the term of a 5-year term, okay? Yes, I know I can port it. Everybody pushes that portability thing. But please remember, you must re-qualify to port it to another piece of real estate. Your job, right? Your income, the total debt service. What if you bought a car or truck and you got credit card debt? You don't automatically qualify. So it is complicated. And I'm not certain, John, and I've said this, I've been here 40 years. I have been through devastating things, great things, okay? I have seen people lose their homes, John, okay? And it's not pretty. So there are different things, and they should start by talking to you. I say to people, when you're faced with this challenge today, okay, we need to pick up the phone. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, and speak to people with experience, okay? How many years of banking experience do you have, John?
Well, I mean, between the two of us, we've both been doing this we're pushing 40 years.
Okay, so 40 years. And I have been on the ground with real estate for 40 years this year. Yeah. Okay. And that's been every day. Wherever I go, wherever I travel, I'm bouncing off to look at real estate. Okay. So I'm addicted. It's fine. It's okay. We have to be addicted to something.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about real estate, all kinds of stuff, land, whatever. But experience matters, you guys out there. Don't take the first reaction you get. And remember, for that woman that was faced with a $30,000 penalty, John, I'm sure they tried to negotiate. But often, I mean, she's in Toronto. She probably had more equity, praise be. But there are clients across our nation where that is their equity. Okay?
Yeah, I agree. And, a common mistake is you go back to your incumbent lender in this sort of situation for their advice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, that's sort of like the hen asking the fox for advice.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So the other option is to come to folks like us first, talk to other people who are willing to give you a free education, and then you will have a better idea of what your options are, and that could actually help you in your negotiations with the fox.
It's true. It's true. And Stephen, thank you for joining, and I'm glad that the sun is shining on your deck on Seba. But Stephen is well versed in this too. But I agree, John, right? It's good to first talk to your existing lender. They will tell you the lay of the land, but you must then seek outside guidance and help. Okay. And I can tell you guys out there, John's available. without obligation, and I'm available without obligation. And John, I don't know if you know the stats or not, but maybe that's something for us to, yeah. The greater of 3 months interest or rate differential. Haha. Yes. I know. Isn't that crazy, Stephen? Yeah. But listen, okay, the lenders are not all bad people, right? Remember, you agreed to enter into a term with them. It's a contractual obligation. Okay. When you break your term or contract, right, this is potentially they are losing money that they've set aside to earn X number of dollars. Okay. So they're not all BADDD. Okay. So what we're saying, I think, John, is that we need to weigh the options in the product that we're going to sign our names to. Okay. Because there are many options, yes or no, as you can see, right?
Well, even in that what Stephen said there, how they calculate 3 months interest varies lender to lender. How
True.
they calculate interest rate differential varies from lender to lender.
No, it's true.
So it's really important to understand the formula that the lender is using and see if that fits your potential lifestyle change 1, 2, 4, 3 years out.
Sure.
And so, you know, one approach is to say, I'm not worried about it. I'm not going anywhere in 5 years and I'm not going to worry about it. Another approach would be, I want the cheapest form of penalty. And a third approach would be somewhere in between where you want the most flexibility. So now you're starting to look at features of a mortgage rather than just the raw interest rate. And now you're really starting to get a good, solid mortgage education.
Education. Number one. So as I say, you know, I mean, it starts with, and remember, ignorance is not an excuse. Get educated. No,
yeah, I mean, you've got folks like us that are willing to help, and we're willing with no obligation to offer you an education. Some people may say, what's the catch? Well, there isn't one. I mean, if we can teach people about mortgages, that proves to us that we really do understand them, number one. And number two, if we can just help you by giving you an education, that makes us feel good about ourselves and better about what we're adding, the value we're adding to what we can do for society. And, you know, maybe worst case, you pass our name along to a friend. So we're not particularly worried about it. We think what goes around comes around. We think that karma is real. And if we help people somehow, some way, you know, we'll be able to scratch out a living. And that's what we've been able to do for 20 years.
Yeah. See, Stephen, thank you for this. Usually the lender's cost of funds. Yes, with Life Company, and it's the bond rate. I know. So when they make a commitment to lend us money for 5 years, so their loss potentially is real. That's why it's up to us at the very beginning to attempt to understand the product that may apply to us. Okay. No one can circumvent or no one can predict COVID or a loss of jobs, etc. But we can try to educate ourselves before signing on the dotted line. I think that's the takeaway from today, right?
Yeah, and the big thing that gets missed is again how they calculate it. So, you know, anecdotally, this is sort of how it works. So, if you go to a bank and their posted rate is 5%, they never really even mention that. They'll say we're going to give you a 2.5%.
Right.
So what they've done mathematically is given you a 2.5% discount from their posted rate of 5%. Right? 5 minus 2.5 is the 2.5. That's what we call the contract rate. But when it goes time to calculate the penalty, they say, hey, you know, when you signed this, you agreed we could have lent this money out at 5%.
Oh boy.
Well, no, you couldn't have. So they use that higher 5% to say this is what you when you signed up, this is what you promised to pay from a
True.
penalty calculation perspective.
Yeah.
And that's where you get walloped.
Big time. So, and here's the cool thing, John. You can help anyone across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty. I can too. I can talk to anyone. Anyone with a cell phone, you can phone my number or John's number. Typically, for most people on the cell, it's a local call. Okay. However, I have a toll-free number too. Okay. And there's lots of people with experience out there willing to help. And, like I say, there's two sides to every story. Okay. But I think the thing here is right now, if you're faced with this challenge, there is help without obligation, right? John's number is on the screen, and you can come back later or tell a friend if you've seen this. It continues to stream on Facebook and YouTube. So you can go to my YouTube channel and please subscribe. Come on. And John, as I mentioned before, I heard over 700,000 Canadians opted for the mortgage deferral program. So that tells me that they, I know there'll be some people out there not exactly sure what to do. And one of the options they have is to sell. So they need to be that decision. They need to talk to first their bank and then an independent person like yourself, and then a very experienced realtor like me. Okay? Because there are solutions. We can help you move forward. Would you not agree with this?
I agree. And if you've signed up for 6 months worth of deferrals, what was it, last month? Mm-hmm. You've got 5 months to figure this out.
Yeah,
so
you do.
Don't wait, find out about your options well in advance.
Yeah. Planning.
Yeah.
Just plan. And I know one of the biggest panic is all of a sudden they get laid off, total lost job. So now what? Still, do not panic. Okay. And John, I want to thank you for being here today. What an interesting subject. I'm adjusting to this new shortened version. It's supposed to be 21 minutes, but here we are. See, such an important subject. It's 20 minutes. So thank you so much. And listen, I am still very respectful, of all the things that are going on. I know that today, our Century 21 Canada, they've been streaming live daily, but today they opted not to do that. And their screen is totally black. So I'm going to add a black screen. Just because we came on live, I know that there are other people hurting out there too, John. So today was important. Today is Thankful Tuesday, and many Canadians are faced with what to do with their homes and their mortgages. And I just wanted people to know and to hear from you. There is help without obligation, people. So pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Call John or Brad at Sky Financial under the Mortgage Center at 780-431-2786. And thank you, John. We'll see you next week, I hope.
Thank you, Sally. And
peace.
Wish for peace.
Yes, please. Oh, Lord. Peace. Keep safe. And I actually will text you the number of the fellows at the rental division. Okay?
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Do that. Thank you very much for being here. Bye for now, everyone. Take good care.
You too.
Thanks. So that was John Cliff. John's been with us. We've known John for many, many years. And you heard that John and his partner, Brad, they work together at the Mortgage Center under Sky Financial. They have 40 years plus of experience. We're happy to be here at no obligation if you just want to talk, okay? Yes, I understand. We will move forward together one step at a time. We can do this. And take good care of yourselves today. All the very, very best. And out of respect, I will do this. Let's see if this works.